Aviation's most intriguing mysteries continue to intrigue us. Did you know a flight attendant survived a fall from 33,000 feet? Or that a young boy made it through a challenging journey in a plane's wheel well, without oxygen or a seatbelt? From the unexplained disappearance of Amelia Earhart to Flight 19's vanishing over the Bermuda Triangle, these unresolved cases still leave experts puzzled. Stay with us as we explore the fascinating world of lost flights, where some answers may remain out of reach. Let's begin. In January 1972, Jet Flight 367, a McDonnell Douglas DC-9, exploded mid-air over Srbska Kamenice, Czechoslovakia, at an altitude of 33,000 feet. The aircraft disintegrated, resulting in the death of 27 of the 28 people on board. Vesna, a 22-year-old flight attendant, was trapped in the tail section, pinned by a food cart. As the wreckage plummeted, it struck a snow-covered forested slope, softening the impact just enough for her to survive. Rescuers found her critically injured. She remained in a coma for 27 days but made a full recovery. Despite the suspected presence of a bomb planted by Croatian nationalists, the true cause of the explosion remains a mystery. Vesna later returned to work for the airline in a desk position and still holds the Guinness World Record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute. Her survival remains one of aviation's most astonishing miracles. But was her survival the only miracle in aviation history? Stay tuned for another extraordinary tale of a survival against all odds. Many have dreamed of sneaking onto a plane for an adventure, but for one 15-year-old boy, this reckless decision became a real-life survival story. To see his mother in Africa, he ran away from his home in California, bypassed airport security, and hid inside the wheel well of an aircraft. However, he had no idea that the flight was not bound for Africa but Hawaii. His 5-hour journey at an altitude of 38,000 feet, in the wheel compartment, temperatures plummet to negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and oxygen levels are critically low. Most stowaways do not survive, yet when the plane landed in Maui, stunned airport staff saw the boy emerge from the landing gear, alive. Doctors called it a medical miracle. He admitted to losing consciousness multiple times, but experts believe that hypoxia-induced unconsciousness may have slowed his metabolism, allowing him to survive the extreme conditions. While his youth may have been a factor, aviation experts stress that such a stunt is almost always for the worst results. While some escape the dangers of flight, others find themselves lost in the skies forever. What happened to Amelia Earhart? Let's uncover one of the greatest mysteries in aviation. Amelia Earhart, the pioneering aviator, vanished on July 2, 1937, while attempting to fly around the world. With her navigator, Fred Noonan, she departed from Lae, Papua New Guinea, aiming for Howland Island but never arrived. Despite an extensive search by the United States Coast Guard and Navy, no wreckage or remains were found, making it the most expensive search effort of its time. The leading theory is that her plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific near Howland Island. Some believe Earhart and Noonan landed on Nikomoro Island, where researchers have found artifacts but no conclusive proof. Others suggest they were captured by Japanese forces in the Marshall Islands, though no solid evidence supports this claim. In 2024, Deep Sea Vision detected a sonar image resembling Earhart's plane, but it was a rock formation. In early 2025, Dr. Richard Pettigrew announced an expedition to investigate an anomaly, dubbed the Taraya object, on Nikomoro Island, which he believes could be the wreckage of Earhart's Lockheed Electra. The search for answers continues. While we still don't know what happened to Amelia, could Flight 19 offer more clues to the puzzle? The Bermuda Triangle has long been associated with strange disappearances. What really happened to these brave souls? Flight 19, a squadron of 5 United States Navy Grumman TBM Avenger bombers, disappeared on December 5, 1945, during a routine training mission. The flight, led by Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, departed from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but about 90 minutes in, radio transmissions revealed the pilots were lost. Taylor reported compass malfunctions and as fuel ran low, all contact was lost. The Navy launched a massive search. A Martin PBM Mariner sent to find them also vanished with its 13 crew members. A nearby tanker reported an explosion and an oil slick, but no wreckage or survivors were ever found. The disappearance fueled the Bermuda Triangle legend, linking it to other cases like the U.S. Cyclops. A Navy cargo ship that vanished in 1918 with 306 crew members, and the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, two British aircraft that disappeared in the late 1940s. Skeptics argue that environmental factors, human error, and mechanical failures explain these incidents. Researcher Lawrence David Couchet found that disappearances in the region are statistically normal and often exaggerated. Yet Flight 19 remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Next, stay with us as we explore another incident, the disappearance of AirAsia Flight 8501. But before we continue, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just press the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It means the world. It really supports this channel. And if you do that for me, I promise my team and I will do everything we can to make this show even better for you. Deal. Two flights, AirAsia Flight 8501 and Air France Flight 447, serve as reminders of how a chain of errors can lead to incident. On December 28, 2014, AirAsia Flight 8501 departed Surabaya, Indonesia, for Singapore. About 40 minutes into the flight, the Airbus A320 vanished from radar over the Java Sea, carrying 162 people. Despite an immediate search operation, only 116 bodies were recovered, with the rest lost to the depths. Investigators determined that a faulty control system prompted the captain to reset the onboard computer, but miscommunication in the cockpit led to loss of control. Similarly, on June 1, 2009, Air France Flight 447, an Airbus A330, disappeared while flying from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to Paris, France. The aircraft encountered a severe storm over the Atlantic Ocean, and its speed sensors froze, sending conflicting data to the pilots. Confused and unable to regain control, the crew made critical errors, causing the aircraft to stall and plunge into the ocean. It took over 2 years to recover the wreckage and flight recorders, making it the accident in Air France's history and the worst involving an Airbus A330. Both crashes serve as proof that even the most advanced technology is vulnerable to human error in unpredictable conditions. What if a faulty refueling led to a disaster? Let's take a closer look at the mysterious case of Flying Tiger Line Flight 739. Flying Tiger Line Flight 739, a Lockheed Super Constellation, vanished over the Pacific on March 16, 1962. Chartered by the United States Army, it carried 93 soldiers, 3 South Vietnamese military personnel, and 11 crew members to South Vietnam. The flight departed from Travis Air Force Base in California, with stops in Honolulu, Wake Island, Guam, and Clark Air Base in the Philippines. After taking off from Guam, the plane's final transmission at 14:22 Greenwich Mean Time placed it 280 nautical miles west of the island. Soon after, all contact was lost. The U.S. military launched an extensive 8-day search over 200,000 square miles but found no wreckage. A Liberian tanker reported seeing a mid-air explosion near the aircraft's last known position, but no evidence confirmed this. The Civil Aeronautics Board ruled an in-flight explosion as the probable cause but could not determine why. For years, the victims were not recognized on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, but in 2021, a private memorial was built in Columbia Falls, Maine, honoring all 107 lost. The mystery remains unsolved. Do you think the disappearance of Flying Tiger Line Flight Even 39 was caused by an in-flight explosion, or could there be a more sinister explanation behind it? Share your thoughts. Pan American World Airways Flight 7, Clipper Romance of the Skies, disappeared over the Pacific on November 8, 1957, while flying from San Francisco to Honolulu. The Boeing 377 Stratocruiser carried 44 people and made its last routine position report at 5:04 in the evening, cruising at 10,000 feet. It never arrived. A large-scale search uncovered debris and 19 bodies on November 14, 900 nautical miles northeast of Honolulu. 14 people were wearing life jackets, indicating they had time to react. However, the main wreckage was never found due to the region's extreme ocean depth of over 16,000 feet. The Civil Aeronautics Board could not determine the cause. While the aircraft type had known mechanical issues, no direct evidence linked them to the crash. Speculation about sabotage and carbon monoxide poisoning also lacked conclusive proof. In April 2023, a memorial was placed at the Millbrae History Museum near San Francisco International Airport, honoring all 44 victims. The fate of Clipper Romance of the Skies remains unsolved. British South American Airways Flight CS-59, known as Stardust, disappeared on August 2, 1947, while flying from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to Santiago, Chile. The Avro Lancastrian 3 vanished over the Andes Mountains with 11 people on board, sparking a massive but fruitless search effort. The experienced crew sent a final Morse code message at 5:41 in the evening, confirming arrival in 4 minutes. The message ended with Stendek, a term repeated twice but never explained. The aircraft never arrived. In 1998, climbers found wreckage on Mount Tupungato, 50 miles east of Santiago. A later Argentine Army investigation confirmed the site. Experts determined that an unrecognized jet stream effect caused the crew to miscalculate their location, leading them to descend too soon and crash into the glacier. An avalanche buried the wreckage, which resurfaced decades later as the glacier moved. The meaning of Stendek remains a mystery. Some believe it was a misinterpreted Morse code for descent, while others speculate it was a distress signal. The disappearance of Stardust remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved cases. Not every mystery is solved decades later. Some remain just as enigmatic, like the disappearance of the B-47 Stratojet. Let's dive into this case. In 1956, a Boeing B-47 Stratojet took off from an Air Force base in Florida on a non-stop mission to an airbase in Morocco. Its first aerial refueling went smoothly. However, during the second scheduled refueling over the Mediterranean Sea, the situation took a dramatic turn. The tanker aircraft failed to establish contact. The B-47, expected to descend for refueling, had simply vanished. Search efforts covered thousands of square miles, but not a single trace of the aircraft was ever found. No wreckage, no distress signals, and no clues to explain its disappearance. However, what made this case even more alarming was the cargo. On board were 2 nuclear capsules, essential components for nuclear warheads. Theories quickly emerged, with some suggesting that the aircraft had been intercepted by a foreign power, eager to seize its nuclear payload. Others speculated that an in-flight malfunction or catastrophic failure led to its demise. Yet, without evidence, the fate of the Stratojet remains one of aviation's most unsettling mysteries. Incidents in the air are not limited to military aircraft. What happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 is one of the most haunting mysteries in modern aviation. Could the truth be out there? Stay tuned. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries of the 21st century. Despite modern tracking technology, the plane vanished without a trace, leaving behind more questions than answers. On March 8, 2014, Flight MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, for Beijing, China, carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members. As it approached Vietnamese airspace, its transponder was manually turned off, and the aircraft suddenly changed course. Soon after, it disappeared from radar, sparking an unprecedented global search. Experts concluded the plane likely crashed into the Indian Ocean, south of Australia, but the exact cause remains unknown. Theories range from mechanical failure and hijacking to deliberate pilot action, as evidence suggests manual interference with the flight path and communication systems. Despite extensive searches, only a few debris fragments have been found. To this day, the fuselage and black box remain missing, keeping the fate of Flight 370 an unsolved aviation enigma. Trans World Airlines Flight 800, a scheduled international flight from John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, ended in disaster on July 17, 1996. At approximately 8:31 in the evening Eastern Daylight Time, the Boeing 747-100 exploded midair and crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near East Moriches, New York. All 230 people on board lost their lives. The aircraft, registered as N93119, had been in service since 1971, accumulating over 93,000 flight hours. On the day of the incident, Flight 800 departed at 8:19 in the evening. Just 12 minutes later, as it climbed to cruising altitude, it exploded without warning. Witnesses described a bright flash, followed by a fireball and falling debris. The U.S. Coast Guard, Navy, and emergency responders launched a large-scale search operation. Though there were no survivors, about 95% of the wreckage was recovered, allowing investigators to piece together what happened. The National Transportation Safety Board conducted a thorough investigation, concluding that the explosion originated in the aircraft's center wing fuel tank. A short circuit likely ignited flammable fuel vapors inside the tank, though the precise source of ignition remains unknown. Do you think the explosion of TWA Flight 800 was truly caused by a short circuit, or could there be something more mysterious behind it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel to discover more interesting things. Helios Airways Flight 522, known as the Ghost Plane, remains one of the aviation incidents of the 21st century. On August 14, 2005, the Boeing 737 departed Larnaca, Cyprus, bound for Prague with a stop in Athens. Minutes after takeoff, an altitude warning sounded, but the pilots mistook it for a takeoff configuration alarm and ignored it. As the plane climbed to 5,400 meters, oxygen masks deployed, signaling a loss of cabin pressure. Hypoxia set in as the aircraft reached 10,000 meters, leaving the crew and passengers unconscious. The plane continued on autopilot, unresponsive to air traffic control. Greek authorities dispatched 2 F-16 fighter jets which intercepted the aircraft. The pilots saw a lone flight attendant attempting to regain control, but with fuel nearly exhausted, the plane crashed near Grammatico, 40 kilometers north of Athens, killing all 121 people on board. The incident led to the shutdown of Helios Airways and remains an example of the dangers of cabin depressurization and human error. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501, a Douglas DC-9, vanished over Lake Michigan on June 23, 1950, during a flight from New York City to Seattle. After departing LaGuardia Airport, the flight was en route to Seattle with planned stops in Minneapolis and Spokane. Near Lake Michigan, Captain Robert Lind requested to descend from 6,000 feet to 4,000 feet due to turbulence and storms, but was denied due to heavy air traffic. At 11:13 in the evening, all contact was lost. Despite extensive search efforts, the main wreckage was never found. However, debris, upholstery, and human remains were recovered from the lake. The cause remains unknown, with theories ranging from severe weather to mechanical failure. Since 2004, the Michigan Shipwreck Research Associates has conducted annual searches, but the aircraft remains missing. In 2008 and 2015, unmarked mass graves in Michigan were identified as resting places for victims. Memorial markers were placed to honor those lost in this enduring mystery. So many flights vanish without a clue. But did Canadian Pacific Airlines Flight 355 meet the same fate? Let's uncover the mystery of this lost flight. In Canadian Pacific Airlines Flight 355, which vanished without a trace in early 1951. The aircraft departed Vancouver with 37 people on board, including crew members, bound for Tokyo with a planned stop in Alaska. However, it never reached its destination. 45 minutes after the plane failed to arrive at its scheduled checkpoint, authorities launched a large-scale search and rescue mission. The most plausible theory suggested the aircraft crashed in the freezing northern wilderness. Yet, despite an extensive 3-month search, no wreckage, bodies, or distress signals were ever found. Adding to the mystery, most passengers were U.S. and Canadian military personnel, drawing international attention. With no radio communications or emergency signals, it was as if the plane had simply vanished into thin air. Decades later, Flight 355 remains one of aviation's unexplained disappearances. The legend of Santiago Flight 513 is one of the most bizarre aviation myths ever told. According to the widely circulated story, a commercial airliner vanished in 1954, only to mysteriously reappear 35 years later, with its passengers reduced to skeletons. The myth traces back to a sensational article published by the American tabloid Weekly World News on November 14, 1989. The article claimed that Santiago Airlines Flight 513 took off from Aachen, West Germany, on September 4, 1954, bound for Porto Alegre, Brazil, with 88 passengers and 4 crew members. It supposedly disappeared over the Atlantic and was presumed lost. Then, on October 12, 1989, the plane allegedly reappeared in Porto Alegre, intact, with skeletal remains still seated in the cabin. However, there is no historical record of Santiago Airlines ever existing. No official flight logs document such a disappearance, and no reputable news outlets have ever verified this claim. Weekly World News, known for publishing fictional stories, was the sole source of the report. Over the years, fact-checking organizations have debunked the Santiago Flight 513 legend. It stands as a reminder of how easily myths can spread and why critical thinking is essential when evaluating sensational stories. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now. I'm sure you'll love this content. Comment below about the next topic you'd like to see featured on our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.